What's going on today, YouTube? Rob here. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a physical copy of the Eldlich-Myutant deck that I showcased for you guys on EDO Pro about a month ago. So I hope you guys enjoy. Before we get started, I just want to say if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos. And without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into this Mutant Eldlich deck profile. So to start off, I have 2 copies of Mutant Beast. This card cannot be special summoned except with the effect of a mutant card. Your opponent cannot target this card with monster effects, and you can only use each of the following effects of Mutant Beast once per turn. So when your opponent activates a spell card or effect, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand or field and negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. If this card is in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target one of your banished mutant trap cards and add it to your hand. Then I have 1 copy of Arsenal and 1 copy of Mist. Arsenal, again, cannot be special summoned except with the effect of a mutant card. Your opponent cannot target this card with trap effects, and you can only use each of the following effects of Mutant Arsenal once per turn. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand or field and target 1 of your opponent's monsters on the field and banish it. If this card is in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target 1 of your banished mutant spells and add it to your hand. And Mutant Mist, again, cannot be special summoned except with the effect of a mutant card. Your opponent cannot target this card with spell effects, and you can only use each of the following effects of Mutant Mist once per turn. When your opponent activates a trap card or effect, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand or field and draw 2 cards. If this card is in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target 1 of your banished mutant monsters and add it to your hand. Next, we have 3 copies of ST46. He is one of your 2 starter cards. This card allows you, when it is normal or special summoned, to add 1 mutant spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. And you contribute this card, then banish 1 card from your hand or face up on the field, and special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck, depending on what the card you banished was. So if you banish a monster, you summon Beast. If you banish a spell card, you summon Mist. And if you banish a trap card, you summon Arsenal. You can only use each of these effects once per turn. Next, we have 3 copies of M-05. Again, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 mutant monster from your deck to your hand, except for M-05. You contribute this card, then banish 1 card from your hand or face up on the field, and special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck based on the banished card. If you banish a monster, it's Beast. If you banish a spell card, it's Mist. And if you banish a trap, it's Arsenal. You can only use each of these effects once per turn. That's it for the mutant monsters that we play in this deck. Next, we have our Eldlich monsters. Now, I only have 1 copy of Golden Lord, but you should play 3 in this deck. It has a lot more synergy with the extra deck, as more cards in your extra deck kind of rely on having multiple Golden Lords on the field. So you can send this card and 1 spell or trap card from your hand to the graveyard, then target 1 card on the field and send it to the graveyard. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 spell or trap card that you control to the graveyard and add this card to your hand. Then if you do, special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand. And if you do, until the end of your opponent's next turn, this card gains 1000 attack and defense. And it also cannot be destroyed by card effects, and you can only use each effect of Eldlich the Golden Lord once per turn. keep going with our monsters. We have the only hand trap in the deck, which is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which just allows you to negate any of the following effects. So if your opponent is adding a card from deck to hand, or they are special summoning from the deck, or they are sending a card from their deck to the graveyard, and you can only use Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring once per turn. Lastly, for the monsters, we have the Dragoon package. So we have 1 copy of Red Eyes and 1 copy of Dark Magician, as well as the 1 copy of Red Eyes Fusion. Red Eyes Fusion allows you to fusion summon 1 fusion monster that has a Red Eyes monster as material from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as fusion materials. And if you do, its name becomes Red Eyes Black Dragon, and you cannot normal or special summon other monsters the turn you activate this card, and you can only activate 1 Red Eyes Fusion per turn. Again, you don't have to play this. This makes your deck a 43 card deck rather than a 40 if you're playing it with all the other cards that I have in the deck. That's it for monsters and the 1 spell. For the Dragoon package, let's move on to the spell cards. So first off, I have 1 copy of Black Awakening in this deck. You should play 2, I just don't have access to a second one at the moment. This lets you special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters, and you can banish this card from your graveyard and set 1 Golden Land spell or trap card directly from your deck. You can only use 1 Elixir of Black Awakening effect per turn, and only once that turn. Again, you should play 2 of this card. I only have 1 because I only have access to 1 at the moment. Next, I have 3 copies of White Destiny. This allows you to special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand or graveyard, but if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. And for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters. And during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and set 1 Golden Land spell or trap card directly from your hand or deck. Directly from your deck, not your hand. You can only use White Destiny's effect once per turn, and only once that turn. Next, we have 3 copies of Evolution Lab. This allows you, when it is activated, to special summon 1 level 4 or lower mutant monster from your hand or that is banished. And mutant monsters you control gain 100 attack for each of your banished mutant cards with different names. Once per turn during your main phase, you can place 1 mutant monster from your hand on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, you draw 1 card. You can only activate 1 Mutant Evolution Lab per turn. And lastly, for the spell cards in the deck, we have 1 copy of Mutant Fusion, which allows you to fusion summon 1 Mutant Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field. And if your opponent has activated a card effect this turn, you can use up to 1 monster each from your deck and graveyard as fusion material, and you can only use 1 copy of Mutant Fusion per turn. That's it for the spells. Let's move on to the trap cards. So to start off, we have 3 copies of Mutant Expansion. So when you activate this card, you can target 1 level 4 or lower mutant monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. If a level 8 or higher mutant monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card that you control instead. You can only activate one mutant expansion per turn. Next, we have 3 copies of Mutant Cry. This allows you during your main phase to fusion summon one mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into your deck. This can be used with cards from your field or in your graveyard and or face-up banished cards. You can only activate one Mutant Cry per turn. That's it for our mutant engine in terms of traps. Let's move on to the rest of our traps, which are all Eldlich based. So we have 3 copies of Conquistador. This card lets you special summon this card as a normal monster, zombie, light, level 5, attack of 500, and a defense of 1800. This card is also still a trap when it is in your monster zone. Then, if you control Eldlich the Golden Lord, you can destroy one face-up card on the field, and during the end phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and set one Eldlich spell or trap card directly from your deck. You can only use Conquistador of the Golden Lands effects once per turn and only once that turn. Next, we have 3 copies of Huaquero of the Golden Land. This card, again, is another trap monster. So you special summon this card as a normal monster, zombie, light, level 5, with 1800 attack and 1500 defense. This card is still treated as a trap. And then, if you control Golden Lord, you can banish one card from your opponent's from either graveyard. Then, during the end phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and set one Eldlich spell or trap directly from your deck. And you can only use Huaquero of the Golden Land land's effect once per turn and only once that turn. And lastly, to round off our main deck, we have 3 copies of Scarlet Sanguine. So this card lets you special summon one zombie monster from your deck or graveyard, but if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. And for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters. And you can banish this card from your graveyard and set one Golden Lord or Golden Land spell or trap card directly from the deck. You can only use each effect of Scarlet Sanguine once per turn and only once that turn. That's it for the main deck. Again, this is a 40 card main deck if you play 3 copies of Golden Lord and 2 copies of Black Awakening, as well as not playing the Dragoon package. But I find the Dragoon package just adds a little bit more consistency and a little bit more threat to what you can do with this deck. Now let's move on to the extra deck. So first off, I have the 1 copy of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Liebe and Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. Juggernaut Liebe requires 3 level 11 monsters, but can also be special summoned with your Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. So once per turn, you can also exceed summon Juggernaut Liebe by using 1 rank 10 machine monster you control, i.e. Gustav Max, and you just transfer the materials over. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, and it gains 2,000 attack and defense. Also, for the rest of the turn, you can only declare an attack with this card, and during each battle phase, this card can make attacks on monsters up to the number of Xyz material it has +1. And your Gustav Max requires 2 level 10 monsters, which is why I say you should play 3 copies of your Golden Lord. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card and inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. And lastly, for our Xyz monsters, we have Sky Palace Gangaridai. So this requires 2 level 10 monsters, and you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy that target, and if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. You can only use the effect of Sky Palace Gangaridai once per turn, and this card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. These guys are really good for late game combos, because you can make your Gustav Max and inflict 2,000 points of damage to your opponent by detaching a material. And then you can go into your Rail Cannon, Juggernaut Libe, and basically swing for game. Or you can go a different route and summon Sky Palace Gangaridai and wipe a monster off the field, but it can't attack the turn that you use its effect. And that's it for the Xyz monsters. Let's move on to our Link monsters in the deck. So again, you don't have to really play Verte Anaconda, but you can use it for the Mutant Fusion if you decide not to play Red Eyes Fusion. This requires 2 effect monsters, and you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, and it becomes dark until the end of this turn. And you can also pay 2,000 life points and send 1 Fusion or Polymerization normal or quick play spell from your deck to the graveyard, and this effect becomes that spell effect when that card is activated. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn. You can only use each of the effects of Verte Anaconda once per turn. Then again, you don't have to play these cards, but you can if you want. I have 1 Phoenix and 1 Griffin. So these guys require 2 monsters with different names, or 2 plus monsters with different names. If this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls and destroy it. Then, if this card was co-linked with this effect, when this effect was activated, you can draw 1 card. You can only use the effect of Nightmare Phoenix once per turn. Co-linked monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And for our Griffin, if this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card and target 1 spell or trap card on the field. You can target 1 spell or trap card in your graveyard and set it on your field, but it cannot be activated this turn. And if this card was co-linked when the effect was activated, you can draw 1 card. You can only use the effect of Griffin once per turn. And special summoned monsters on the field cannot activate their effects unless they are linked. That's it for the link monsters. You guys can play more. You guys don't have to play the ones that I play. But let's move on to the fusions. Obviously, like I said, you don't have to play the Dragoon package, but I have Dragoon in this. So, this requires Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon, or 1 Dragon Effect monster. This card cannot be destroyed by card effects. Neither player can target this card with card effects. And during your main phase, you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. You can use this effect a number of times per turn, up to the number of normal monsters used as fusion material for this card. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can discard 1 card and negate the activation. And if you do, destroy that card. And if you do this card gains 1,000 attack. So pretty self-explanatory. Dragoon is just really good at doing a lot of different things. So that's why I have it in this deck. Next, I have 3 copies of Mutant Synthesis. This requires 2 mutant monsters with different attributes. And if this card is fusion summoned, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can activate this card, or you can activate this effect, and for the rest of the turn, this face-up card is unaffected by effects of an opponent's card or of the same type, monster, spell, or trap, as the card that was activated. If this fusion summoned monster is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add 1 of your banished mutant cards from your hand, you can add 1 of your banished mutant cards to your hand, and you can only use each effect of Synthesis once per turn. And lastly, I have 2 copies of Ultimus. This requires 3 level 8 or higher mutant monsters. When a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish 1 mutant card from your hand or graveyard. Your hand, graveyard, or face up on the field as of the same type, monster, spell, or trap, and negate the activation. And if you do, banish that card. If this fusion summon card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect or card, you can add up to 3 of your banished mutant cards to 1 each of monster, spell, or trap to your hand, and you can only use each effect of Ultimus once per turn. And that's it for the extra deck. This is a 13 card extra deck, I believe. So you can add other cards. Again, because you're playing 3 copies of each Huaquero and Conquistador that are level 5, you can play rank 5s with this deck as well. So I would suggest maybe playing Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon and Dark Requiem Xyz Dragon, but again, you don't have to. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to leave a like. As I said, you don't have to play all the cards in this deck. This is a 43 card deck, which includes the Red Eyes Dragoon package. You don't have to play that card, and you don't have to play that package. You can change up whatever you want about the deck. You could add more Eldlich cards, you could take cards out of the extra deck and add cards in the extra deck. This is just what I came up with, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next one. That's game.